Have you ever been hacked? If you have listened to one of my shows a few weeks back, yeah, you know that I was hacked big time. But when I say big time, actually, it was nothing compared to the guest I have on today. Dr. Joan actually was, her social security number was hacked. And with that, oh, you can do a lot of damage. And the realization that actually no one was there to help her. And I found that very disturbing, that when you call the Social Security department, that they are not able to assist you in that regard. So she is here and brought a couple legal advisors with her because we are going to talk about some legal stuff. And if you want to know what you can do to prevent being hacked or your identity stolen, definitely hang around. Hello and welcome to another episode of Become. For those who watch this show on YouTube, you will see, wow, how many people are on there today? Usually I only have one guest, but this time I have three guests. So I'm very excited about it, and you will find out why. But I would like to start out with Dr. Joan. Welcome and thank you for being here and sharing your story today.
I'm very excited to bring myself on and bring my colleagues, Jason and attorney Paul, to be on the show with us. We're very happy about it.
Great. And I know, if you could just, before we go into the story, introduce yourself. So, what do you do? You're also known as Joan of Angel.
Yes, so I started my life my career as a chiropractor, and I was always referred to as Dr. Joan for, I have to tell you, over 40 years. I've been a chiropractor. I've always worked with people to help give them more energy, vitality, and live their best life. I'm also, though, in 2013, I was guided to start painting angels. And so I started painting angels, and now I'm known for Joan of Angels as the artist Joan of Angels, for the art that I paint that also uplifts people. Very, very interesting. So everything I do is uplifting. Over the last 2 or 3 years, and particularly this year, I've actually been able to bring both sides of me together to Dr. Joan. So I'm going to be launching my Dr. Joan show, Dr. Joan of Angels show, and my Joan of Angels, because it's really all different aspects of the same thing. It's all about healing your body, mind, and spirit, which is really why we're on the show today, because what I have found is the things that get in the way of our spiritual path, of our alignment in your body, mind, and spirit. And that's when we have mental stress and we have mental distress. We can't really focus. And so, really, honestly, I shifted into really discussing some of the things that happen on our 3D planet, the 3D world, because I know so many of us kind of focus most on spirit and ascension and dreaming like you do. But what gets in the way of that is when we're stressed about things that happen to us, such as having our identity hacked or the social security hack, or all the stuff that we're seeing on the news, like 2.5 billion social security numbers are hacked. Well, what I want to tell everyone is probably your social security number was hacked, and unless you learn how to deal with it in this 3D realm, it's hard for you to focus on dreaming, or at least for me. And so I'm really learning how to kind of bring it all together.
Yeah, and it's not just the social security number that can be hacked or stolen, so many other things. And what you said is so true. We have to find that balance between our spiritual, our mind, body, mind connection, and then deal with the real world, all the things that we are bombarded with on a daily basis. So, my question to you is, how did this happen? And I know you have brought your guests here as well, Jason and Paul, who will probably also jump in to help us some with the legal stuff. But before we go there, I would love to hear from you what happened.
Well, I will tell you this. Years ago, the IRS mentioned to my attorney, I was being audited at the time. It was like, oh, by the way, someone else is using her social security number. They just mentioned it. And they all said, you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. And then officially, I found out that this guy, I even have his name, has a T-Mobile account. And then a few months ago, I discovered that they were trying to hack into and get a what they call a payday loan in my name, or in my, not in my name, I guess in their name with my social security number, meaning I'd be responsible for it. And fast forward to then, I guess, hearing again from the IRS, but it's like nothing they can do about it. So I spent hundreds of hours, trying to figure out how to fix this. And I became an anxious mess. It was like my spiritual journey went out the window because my bank account was being threatened. And I think that that's the bottom line, that we have to come back down here and deal with these things as we then realign ourselves and like clear it out of our system and come back to normal.
Yeah.
So that's really been my experience.
Right. And you hit the nail on the head. It's really all comes down to the quote unquote money aspect, because that is a form of exchange where we get services and values in our life, because we still live on this plane and we have to buy our grocery and pay our bills and so forth. So the question is, and maybe that is something I can ask, you know, Paul, who is the attorney here, from the legal point of view, how can that happen that somebody stoles or steals your social security number and you even go to the government saying, hey, this is me? And one of the things, why don't they do anything if I can identify myself?
When you say go to the government, who do you mean? And how do you go to the government, first of all, right?
Yeah, the Social
There
Security
isn't a say.
Department.
Okay, so still, who at the Social Security Department? Because if you ring up the phone and call the Social Security Department, I think you're going to get a vastly different person than if an attorney rings up. Because attorneys know how to handle it, right? And this comes down to the point of, I remember there was a commercial, I forget who it was for, but you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Fortunately, a lot of this stuff, you need an attorney. In life, if you don't have the right contact or the right way of contacting, because of course, when you're trying to contact the government, there are certain way in terms of registered mail, in terms of having it come from somebody with an Esquire after their name and knowing the buttons to push. And this is where we talk about, we get all these advantages from being in a network-based business, network world where everybody can connect via the internet, etc. So we have to be proactive in terms of protecting ourselves. We have to protect our online reputation. We have to have, we have to have the ability to have an attorney to assist us. And if we do these things up front, just like when we talk about the doctors, etc., the ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. Once the cat's out of the bag, once you're, like Dr. Joan, you said that the IRS said to you that your social security number is being used by somebody else. That's disgraceful. How can the government, who issues social security numbers and tell us how important they are, say, oh, by the way, your number is being used by somebody else, and you're left to go ahead and do the investigation to find out who's using it and try to stop it. Well, that's not your job, right? I mean, that is a job. If they're going to have these numbers, if we're going to rely on them, if they're going to control them, they need to have protection for us, but they don't. So, like most things in life, don't rely on the government. Figure out how to handle it yourself. Dr. Joan, I'd hate to have me try to do an adjustment on my own spine.
Don't.
It's not going to work out, right? then I'll have to go to two of you. So my preference is to have an attorney that can help you. And that's where I've helped lots of people. And the idea is, there are certain things that people talk about and they're novel now about, oh, I got hacked, or, oh, somebody's using my ID to do this or do that. I've seen people take their other people's homes away basically by doing this. And the seniors are being, I mean, the predatory practices against seniors are horrendous. I mean, people who have given their lives for our youth and done all these things, and now they're being taken advantage of. So, that's why, I personally am not a legal shield attorney, but, I really think that it's worthwhile to talk about what it is that's out there. And I think Jason can tell you a lot about the functions of what the ID and Legal Shield can provide to prevent you from having these catastrophes.
Okay,
Yes.
Jason, go ahead.
All right, absolutely. So yeah, with the membership is glorious, to be honest, because we're bringing a service to the average person that normally couldn't afford a $5,000 retainer or a $10,000 retainer for a certain issue that they're going to be going through. But we're also thinking about things that they're not thinking about and adding it into the membership, like wills and estate planning, power of attorney, writing letters on their behalf, reviewing contracts, documents. And it's really powerful to be able to offer a service for pennies on the dollar, literally, where we have services to be able to protect individuals and family for $30 a month up to $50 a month. So for $1 a day up to $1.55 a day, you're protecting you and your family. And what I love about this is that you don't have to spend the same money for your wife, your kids. It's all included. You're not paying. Every single person has a membership, like most companies out there. And then with the Identity Shield, it's very, very key to be able to protect yourself nowadays. So for $20 for an individual or $35 for the whole family, now you're going to have full protection. We're going to be monitoring you, your social security number, your bank accounts, your credit cards, every aspect in your life for your digital DNA. And then we're going to be making sure that if you were to be hacked, our company is going to be covering you and all your assets up to $3 million, which is very powerful because the government only covers us up to $250,000 in our own bank accounts. So the fact that we're covered up to 3 million, and if you were to get hacked as a member in our company will put a licensed private investigator in your state to get your accounts back to pre-hack status. So if it messed with your credit cards, it messed with your debt, your credit, whatever it affected, it's actually our company will fix it just like it was pre-hack status. So if it took 100 hours or 500 hours, it does not matter. You're only being charged what the membership cost is.
So is this like two different things? Like the Legal Shield is one membership, and then there's another membership for your identity protection.
Yeah, we sell them as a combo. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Most people don't just eat a peanut butter sandwich; they eat peanut butter and jelly. So it's great to have the lawyer with the identity protection.
Here's a question. In today's world, where everything is so easy to be hacked in, I totally get it. My social media account was hacked. Well, I just lost
about it.
That's right. So I lost a few thousand followers, which is, I don't mind. I'm done with that. But I totally can see that when you are talking about somebody else using your social security number and opening up bank accounts or getting loans. Now, the question is, why do I have to be responsible for that if the IRS know that somebody else is using my security number? And the other question that I have is, say I go to the bank and have a loan or whatnot, don't they need to know that it's actually me and not some avatar?
Those are great questions. Attorney Paul, what can you tell us?
So if you want something done to protect you, you need to have everything in place correctly, because the IRS isn't gonna deal with they're not even caught up on last year's tax returns. So they have no time to help you with your hacking of your social security number. Plus, it's not even their responsibility. because they're not the Social Security Department. The Social Security Department, it's civil servants, and they're trying to keep track of Social Security and figure out who's entitled to what disability benefits and what payments for Social Security. They don't have the time either or the wherewithal. If you think about it, and I think if you ask Jason, he'd tell you the same thing. To fix somebody's hacking of their Social Security number, it's not just a lawyer. You also need a private investigator. You need to have financial. You need to have the ability to go and take someone who had an 805 credit score and now has a 400 and turn them back into an 805. And that is not an easy task. That involves contacting numerous people. And a lot of these companies you're going to contact. So, example, if a bank issues a credit card in your name, they don't want to let go. They don't want to write off the loss. Even if they acknowledge it's true, they still, if they fight you, if they argue, then they don't have to write it off against their balance sheet. So their profitability doesn't get impacted. So they'll wait till the next officer has to take it over and let him write it off, or push it down the road and let her write it off. So nobody's really invested in helping you unless you have somebody that you're paying to do that. And that's their job. They know how to do it. They can be much more efficient than you can be or I can be because they have the system. And so that's really my answer to that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I totally get that. And it's like with everything. When you have quote unquote an insurance, which this is really, I mean, you're paying something to just be protected. There are many different ways we can protect ourselves. And I think it's probably in each individual's preference what they want to do and how they're going to be protected. And then at the end, it's up to them. But I think it's good to know that there is something out there that can help protect them. So let me ask you, Dr. Joan, how did you get that turned around? So did somebody actually open up a loan, and were you then contacted and you had to pay something back?
Well, actually, I found out about it as they were in the process of doing it. So, because I was notified, and so I was able to shut that down immediately, and it didn't happen. And now I check my accounts regularly. But even this morning, I opened up an email, and it was from Norton because I used to have LifeLock, and it was from Norton, and it was a claim that they had just that they had charged, or that I had made this payment on a $365 subscription. Now, I had a vague memory that I didn't think it was going to expire for another month or so, but it was a vague memory. And I looked at the address on top, and it came from Norton. And I call them because I think, okay, I'll call them. So I call, biggest mistake I'm making. The guy says, well, let's go to your browser and we can fix it right here. And I'm half asleep. I didn't have my coffee yet because I got this email and I was already panicked. You see, honestly, I wake up, I'm meditating, and then the next thing you know, I'm in a panic. So the whole beautiful day's going. And so he's telling me, like, oh, put in a T and a B and an H in your browser. And then something snapped. I went, wait a minute. And I hung up. And I realized that if I had pressed the next button, I would have been hacked. And I fell for it. And here I am becoming an identity advocate. And I almost screwed up.
Yeah.
What do you say to that, Jason? Because I should have known.
Jason, before you go there, I have to share this with you guys because I had a similar experience when they hacked my Facebook account. I wanted to get in touch with someone, and so I said somebody needs to be there in person, right? That I can just call. So anyways, so I wanted to make sure that I can speak with a real person. And you cannot find Facebook phone numbers anywhere. So what's the next thing you do? You Google. Mistake. Because there are those people, those hackers, they pay thousands upon dollars to get on the top of Google searches. So there's like Facebook phone numbers, an 800 number. You think you're calling Facebook, but no. So you call someone else. But it's from India, and everybody in the world's now using, foreign speakers, but even if not. But then he says, okay, I have to see your screen, so do a screen share. And I said, I was familiar with that because Apple does it all the time when they fix something. So I was fine. But then he gave me like a download, it didn't work, and this didn't work, and let's try it again. I mean, I was so frustrated, but finally he got on my screen. But the thing is, he also got control of my screen, not just pointing out. And that should have been my first aha and alert moment. But I was so fixated, and pretty alert person. I'm not oblivious about what's going on in this world. But, when you get down a certain rabbit hole, you can get so caught up because my thinking was, number one, I called them, so they didn't call me. And number two, oh yeah, that's what Apple does. So as a human being, you put two and two together and you say, it's okay. But then he asked me all questions, and then he showed me something that he probably just put up from his screen. It's your IP address and so and so. And how about Amazon? I said, oh yeah, Amazon. Da, da. And then I was also saying, yeah, and I just published a book. I don't want that Amazon is being hacked. They said, well, let's go to Amazon. And I was still in that loop. So then I got into my account Amazon and said, oh yeah, is it the same people? I said, damn it. But when he said, let's make a bogus buy so we can catch them, we can know who they are, I said, you know what? I think we need to close this conversation, because I was still very polite, saying, I don't think this is right. And then I hung up, and then I called everybody else in the world to let me, hey, this is fraud, Amazon, no. So I just wanted to share this because it's not just with identity theft. There's so many other things as well. So now the floor is open here. Maybe you can share with our audience, what else do we need to watch out for?
Scammers are so good nowadays. It's crazy. Like you were just saying, you're getting emails with the Norton like letterheads and all this stuff. The scammers are paying all this money to be at the top of the SEO and Google searches. I mean, we're really trying to get out there as hardcore as we can to educate people on our services, because when you're actually plugging in your information into our apps and into our system, then you're going to be fully monitored and fully restored if you do get hacked. And these guys are getting better and better. Well, not guys, they're everybody. I don't know who, guys, girls, everything. They're just out there, man. And everybody every day gets probably 3 to 10 spam likely calls every day.
Yeah.
Our calls are even recognizing that. So I mean, we just have to be out there to educate people. That's all we're here for.
Mm-hmm. So my
May I
question
say
is,
one thing, Sabine?
oh yeah,
It's
please.
I mean, that's, it reminds me of doing psychic work, and we need psychic protection. I learned a long time ago that I get hacked if I don't protect myself energetically. And I never realized I needed to protect myself. I mean, I had the same incident. I let them even upload a program onto my computer for months, and I didn't even know. And they're inside my password manager, changing my passwords right in front of me. So prevention is the only key. I mean, honestly, to be proactive in our life is really important. To be
Mm-hmm.
proactive legally, financially, because that we don't have peace of mind. You did not have peace of mind, I'm sure, at that moment. And
Right.
if it takes a lot of money or time to try to fix it after the fact, you still don't have peace of mind.
Right.
What do you think, Jason or Paul?
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, I would say one other thing, Dr. Joan. When you do get these services, which everybody should, you also have to be careful what you feed them, because if you don't give them the right information and a thorough, especially for example, take something as important as a will. If you don't go through and uncover all the information about your assets, about your liabilities, about your family, about your directives of what you'd want to happen after you're no longer with us, and you're not careful about that, then the best will they're going to make is going to be something that's not enforcing your wishes. So that's why, I've offered for a lot of people that if you want to do this, and I highly suggest it, that we take 20 minutes to go through certain checklists that we've developed that will help you then to obtain the right will, so that they're enforcing the right. And I think the same thing goes with identity. And I know Jason will tell you this. They'll ask you questions about your social media accounts, etc., so that they can monitor not just the dark web, but also what's going on your accounts. So you have to take the time to give them this information. And it may seem like a lengthy process, but after that, you can lock the key and you can be fine going forward.
Hmm. Now, I have one question for you, Jason. Now, if I'm a customer and give you all this information, so Legal Shield has all my information and the information from thousands of others. So, what does hackers prevent to get into Legal Shield and get the information from not just one, but thousands of people?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So we have two very, very important people working in our company. One was a very, very high up guy in NASA, and then another was a very high up guy in the FBI. We can't really talk about it too much. Just understand that our securities are top notch. We got some of the best people in the industry taking care of our securities.
Okay, well, that's good to know. How long has Legal Shield be in business?
It's a 52-year-old company.
I'm gonna make sure to put the information in the show notes, so if somebody is interested, they can just go to the link and then start a conversation, right?
Yeah, and there's tons of videos too that we can share and help as well. I think Dr. Joan will have her cell phone if we could put that in there. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to just text us or email, and we can go over any questions. We can go over the different packages that fits your budget, because one thing we don't want to do is be having you overcharge yourself, because we have multiple plans, so we want to make sure we pick the best one for you. So feel free to shoot us a text, an email, so we can really go ahead and see which one of our plans fits your budget.
That sounds good. And lastly, Dr. Joan, do you now have a better peace of mind, and is your spiritual side catching up with your human and the material stuff?
Well, I'm doing better than ever because I'm actually, I don't know, for some reason right now, maybe it's because I was so distressed. I love coming on shows and talking about all of this because I feel like, I guess I've always talked about body, mind, spirit. And once I realized that there's a gap that happens in your physicality that has to do with these attacks, I realized a lot has to be done to align people. So, guys, if you want to text me, we can even have we can have a consultation and I can let you know if you need it or whatever. And ever since I've been with the company, everyone I meet has a hacking story. And it's pretty bad. I mean, with this latest Social Security breach, I can guarantee 2.5 billion Social Security numbers. We only have 300 million plus in the country. So I'm positive that probably your Social Security number was also taken, even if you haven't heard about it yet. And also, working with the Legal Shield, one of the things I have peace of mind is I had an issue with my driving record, and all I did was tap the button. I don't know if I called them or just sent them up my questions, but I have people working on me to help me with my driving record. I never knew I could have help like that. Like it never would have dawned on me to call an attorney to fix it. But then I woke up in the middle of the night wondering what I'm going to do about that. I was like, couldn't sleep, 3 or 4 in the morning, pacing around. And it was like, call Legal Shield. It was like, oh my God. And I went back to sleep. And that changes everything, knowing that you have a team that works with you, just like I have a team coming on the show with, because we all look at different aspects. Like Paul the other day, attorney Paul mentioned and he mentioned it when we got on about how they can steal your house right out from underneath you.
All right, how is
Not
that?
just waters. It's go ahead, Paul.
Can happen.
Here we go.
Let's talk about the innocent way. I had a client later on. It was after most of this had happened, but her husband was involved in a terrible car crash, and he was in. He was unable to, be conscious. He was in a coma for a while, and they had a very nice house in Miami. And she decided that she wanted to sell the house and move next to the hospital, so into a smaller apartment, so that way she could take care of. Well, she didn't have a power of attorney to sell the house, and it was in both of their names. So she couldn't sell, even though there was $700,000 in equity in the house. And she was not the breadwinner, and he was still alive, so there was no insurance policy to pay. And she ended up losing the house during this time. So there was a way to lose a house just by not having a simple power of attorney document in place. The other example I have was a very good friend of mine lives in a beautiful house in Parkland, and two people, one in South Carolina and one in Mississippi, took out simultaneous mortgages on his house. Now, you would think the banks in those states would be under notice that they're doing a mortgage in a foreign state. Why aren't they doing this mortgage in Florida? Banks are all too eager to give money out to someone with an 800 and something credit score. So they were happy to do that. Luckily, he did have the Legal Shield product. So that triggered the ID Shield triggered and stopped it. They said, "Hup, there's a fraud. Shut it down. Let him know." Now, he still had to report on his securities license that there had been this fraud. So it still impacted him until the issue was resolved. But because he had the program, it was stopped dead in its tracks. And that's what I'm talking about. If it had gone to a mortgage, do you think a bank would have fought you hard to keep a $2 million mortgage in place? Of course. So you'd have two banks with $2 million each on the line fighting to take your house away from you. In this case, it got stopped dead in its tracks.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. There's so many possibilities that we can be taken advantage of. And if you have what I call the, peace of mind, quote unquote, insurance policy, in this case, like a membership, a legal membership, that can help you just have that peace of mind in the knowing if something like this happens to you. Okay, I'm happy to pay my membership there so I don't have to think about that anymore. And quite frankly, people, and I'm not affiliated with Legal Shield, whatever, but in general, sometimes people think, oh, this is too expensive, or, I don't want to invest that money into my security or into my health. I mean, I'm an advocate for health, so I have health product that I take, and some people, oh, that's too expensive. Is that compared to what? But then on the other hand, they're buying a new TV or they're buying any kind of crap. It's just how you allocate your money. So for everybody listening, obviously it's in everybody's interest to do what it's right for them. But what we are here for, and why we have this conversation, is just to make you aware that something like this exists, and you make the decisions, and that is the beauty of it. That's what I like about having different people on my program, sharing different experiences and sharing different opportunities to maybe avoid that or eliminate this. So I am so grateful for all of you to be here on the show today, to share your experience, Dr. Joan, and also let us know what's available. So Dr. Joan, Jason, Paul, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you for
It's
having
an
us.
honor.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. It was.